Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining our session today. It is titled From Static to Scalable, and it's about how Topcon future-proofed all of its global content. So we're going to talk about how they're moving from static PDF manuals to a more dynamic and future-proof solution. I'll also ask that you keep your phone ready. We're going to have some QR codes that you can scan so that you can stay in touch with us and find us on LinkedIn. So, Stephen, let's start off with a couple of introductions.
Thanks, Bernard. My name is Stephen Rosenegger, and I'm the Senior Director of Engineering Operations with Topcon Positioning Systems. If you want to connect, please just scan the QR code. I'm based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and have over 25 years of experience in product development, research, and leadership roles. I'll give some more background on Topcon and what we're about in a moment. But first, let me turn it over to Bernard, our trusted implementation partner for AEM Guides, to introduce himself.
Thanks, Stephen. And first off, I really appreciate your willingness to be here. I know you've got a really busy schedule. Also, a thank you to Adobe for giving us a chance to tell the Topcon story and a little bit about your experiences with AEM Guides. My name is Bernard Aschwanden. Again, you can scan the QR code to connect with me as well. I am an AEM Guides technologist with CCMS Kickstart, where I work with a team in order to help companies like Topcon get the most out of AEM and Guides. More in a bit on that, but Stephen, people are here to listen to your story, the challenges that you were facing, the successes you've had, as well as what's coming up. So could you give an overview of Topcon?
Absolutely. Topcon is a global technology company helping to move the industries that move the world: agriculture, construction, and infrastructure. We focus on building smarter, faster, and more sustainable ways for our customers to work, whether they're feeding the world's growing population or developing the critical systems and infrastructure we all rely on. As those demands increase, we focus on the future, delivering connected, data-driven technologies that boost productivity and improve quality of life. But innovation isn't just about products we make. It's also about how we support the people using our products. For us, that meant rethinking our technology that we use for technical documentation. Like a lot of companies, we started out with printed manuals, long, heavy, and outdated before they hit the field. Then came PDFs, which solved some problems, but brought some others. Hundreds of pages, impossible to navigate, and nearly impossible to keep current. Now we're working towards content that's truly digital first, reusable, and ready to meet our customers wherever they are, whether that's in the cab of a machine, on the job site, or out in the field. And we look ahead. We see AI and automation helping us take the next steps, delivering the right information and right time in the right format, so work keeps moving forward. Today, we're excited to share how our technical documentation team is working to completely transform the way we create, manage, and deliver content, turning static manuals into a modern, scalable, and global content experience. And in doing so, we've partnered with CCMS Kickstart and Adobe.
Thanks. And obviously, we're really proud to be a part of this. It's great to be trusted by Adobe to help implement solutions and by you to work with your team. So my team over at CCMS Kickstart works with AEM Guides, and that's it. I've been involved with the product since really it was just a twinkle in Adobe's eye, all the way through to where it is today. When we take on a project, we start by asking, where are you right now? Then follow it up with, where do you actually want to be? That then leads into the really obvious question of, why aren't you there yet? Together, we start to figure that out. And this then sets the stage so that we can work as partners and help get you there, exploring what's next. We try to set realistic expectations, manage that relationship, the one between you and Adobe, as best as we can. And now here we are, a couple of months later on stage, or I guess digitally on screen, in order to share some of the partnerships that have led to real success. So today, we're going to take some time and work through all of that. Let's start off with the initial discussion about where you were, the challenges that you and your team were facing.
Topcon really operates at the intersection of infrastructure and agriculture, supporting industries that quite literally build and feed the world. On the infrastructure side, we're talking about everything from mapping and surveying to earth moving and vertical construction. And in agriculture, it's about precision farming, helping growers manage crops and livestock more efficiently to be more sustainable. It's a broad global reach, and the content we deliver has to support all of these industries across dozens of languages and regions.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible company. There's so much behind the scenes in a lot of critical areas that just impacts how we live and really where we live. And you also had a lot of challenges that you were facing. The good news, our team worked with a lot of clients in the past in aerospace, hardware, software, finance, and manufacturing, to name a couple. So this means that what you had was a new set of challenges, but in my case, it was something that others that we've already dealt with can really relate to. So some of those solutions might be the same solutions for your challenges. So let's dive in and start off with the idea of taking that PDF manual and using it as a basis in order to go out and print your documentation.
So we were finding that our content strategy of authoring for a print-centric manual was just not sustainable. It was labor intensive to create and maintain and difficult/impossible to edit post-publishing. Our printed manuals were also very costly to inventory in a multitude of languages, and we had lots of old manuals being scrapped whenever new revisions were being released. They were also heavy, both physically in forms of printed manuals and in process overhead. Our users could always go to our My Topcon Now support site for the current version of a PDF, but they may not have known that a new version was available and that their copy was outdated. Some of our content was just overwhelming in terms of sheer volume, which made it hard for users to find what they were looking for. Also, many of our manuals are for specific machine brands and models. This could mean that 90% or more of a manual could be common across a product line, with only limited text being specific to a given model of machine. We would try and reuse content, but this would mainly be a copy and paste from another document, which could introduce risks. It also wasn't scalable with the growing portfolio of machines that we want to support.
And content really was dated, right? The instant that it was released. So tell me a little more about that challenge.
I remember as a kid that every year a pickup truck loaded to the brim with new phone books would drive down our street, and there would be a team of kids running to and from the truck, dropping off new sets of phone books on each house's doorstep. I always thought it was amazing that a phone company could maintain such a directory. Looking back, little did I realize that the phone book was out of date even before it was printed. The previous year's edition, all dog-eared, written in, torn up, and beaten from being abused or used as a step stool or booster seat, was destined for the trash. Like the phone book, Topcon's printed manuals were also, in many cases, out of date as soon as they were released, mainly due to the agile product development cycles of much of our software and firmware. Add a critical software feature for a customer, and the manual would be back in the queue for edits. That may be okay if you only have one or two products, but when you have a small team and hundreds of products, it just isn't scalable or sustainable. This also had the knock-on effect for our technical translations.
And Topcon supports the translation of all the technical documents, the software, multimedia. You've got 36 languages. There's additional languages that you might add whenever it's needed because you enter a new market. Trying to manage that multitude of languages and the translation services becomes really complex and time-consuming. Your translation workflow, it required a pretty extensive and repetitive set of formatting adjustments as well. So translation was just a small part of the overall challenge. The words themselves might take a week, but it takes just as much time or even longer to fix formatting issues in a PDF output, for example. And I'm guessing if the project had 8 languages, it could take you months and months of work just to go in and fix formatting.
That's correct. Without centralized governance, a limited amount of content was being reused in our documentation. Terms and phrases would naturally drift between documents, teams, and writers. Not having a consistent writing approach and style has led to terminology issues within translations. We had become reliant on our translators to ensure terminology is applied correctly using our translation glossary. That translation process is disconnected from authoring, review, and publishing.
And then you end up with bottlenecks because, the process requires that somebody reviews all of the English source document and make sure that it was written and formatted in order to make the translation and, more importantly, the reformat easier. And if you delete a custom paragraph character format, if you add content, you have to make the same adjustment everywhere else.
Once that was done, we would have to generate output to send to the translation vendor. The vendor would then assign the translators. Once the document was translated, it was sent over to Topcon experts who spoke the native language.
Yeah.
Those subject matter experts had to put in time reviewing and re-reviewing translations. And it's not their main role. It can take a long time to translate.
Right. And the translations then get reviewed and corrected. And only then, I guess, you can start really beginning the formatting of it so that you end up releasing a PDF for the customers. And then there's the actual challenge that the content could have inconsistency that leads into issues with the reuse. Talk a little bit about that one.
Like I mentioned, much of our content is common across our manuals, a product line, or between products. Take, for instance, our warranty, a lot of regulatory chapters, and the preface of a manual. We were doing our best to reuse content and to be consistent across our materials, but this would be hard as it was done by copy and pasting between documents, increasing errors and duplications. If some common text would change, it would only be updated in the current manual that the team was working on. And even then, changes may or may not have made it into the reused manuals.
Right.
It was also hard to track where and how content was being reused. And it would really be up to the experience of the tech writing team to know where to find common content that they could reuse. Because of this, there were multiple versions of roughly the same information with no single source of truth, which resulted in inconsistent terminology, style, and tone across teams and regions. This also increased the review cycle times and approval times because the same material would be checked repeatedly.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary of issues, and there's probably a lot of head nodding of people who have run into similar things. What about business drivers for the change? Things like the customer experience, that value-added work for your own business, cost management. I mean, ultimately, the goal is to solve a problem for the customer. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. First and foremost, we want to focus on a better experience for our customers. Those customers could be the end user of our product, but could also be our dealers, salespeople, the training and support team, or anyone else within the company who needed to know how to use the product. We wanted to deliver the content that users were looking for in the media that they wanted. This could be searchable content, including videos. We also wanted our technical writing team to be able to focus on more value-added work and less formatting for print. The hope was that this would reduce the time it took per manual, which would translate into greater throughput for the team.
Right. And at the same time, there's always that pressure to reduce translation costs. That was something that organizationally you saw rising year over year. So how does the effort to adopt the simplified technical English inside the organization fit into all of this?
We really wanted to focus on writing about how to solve a problem for the customer and less about why the product or technology works in a certain way. By using the STE, we could be more efficient in how we write, meaning fewer words, but also words that are more consistent. This had the direct impact on how many words we had to translate. Taking this one step further, we wanted to leverage the automated translation workflows within guides. Our marketing department had just completed the deployment of our new corporate website in AEM sites, and our CIO, Chris Cowles, had pointed me in the direction of Adobe in the hopes that we could build upon the AEM infrastructure that we'd already invested in and deployed. We are really excited about the opportunity that AEM will give us by way of taking advantage of AI integration, analytics, and the direct customer feedback features that it has.
And I think that pretty clearly sets the stage to where you were, and hopefully the challenges are ringing true to others who are attending or listening into the session. Let's move on to the second question that I ask clients, which is, where do you want to be? At the time, you and your team set out some pretty interesting vision and goals for the short term. Start off with faster publishing.
One of our main challenges that my team was facing was the length of time it took them to go from start of a project to release. A lot of that time was spent formatting for print, waiting on subject matter experts to review and edit content, or the document being up for translation. Every member of my team wanted to do more value-added work, but that just wasn't happening. So we wanted to ensure that our SMEs' time was spent on value-added work, as they all have day jobs as product managers, product support specialists, and design engineers. Too often, they were being asked to look at 300 plus page documents, which resulted in over-editing during the review cycle.
That's a pretty common thing in a lot of companies that I talk to that are working with PDF. The speed to market's definitely an issue. In part, it's the templates, translation, updates to the cover page, the back page, the generated content, the design, the layout, just so much more. Let's hit up some of the buzzwords of that multi-channel delivery beyond the PDF and into the dynamic solutions. So you had mentioned integration with AEM sites. You already have some infrastructure in place.
Yeah, Topcon had made a significant investment in AEM sites, and we wanted to build on top of that using our AEM infrastructure as a platform for our technical publications. We also realized very early on that there was starting to be a convergence between our marketing, technical publications, and professional support team in a lot of the documentation that we write for the company and for our customers. A lot of the content that we use is also shared across many of our different platforms. So whether it's for bulldozer, an excavator, or a compact track loader. And we also have two brands that we need to support, our Sokia and our Topcon brand, as well as sometimes we have branding requirements for our OEM customers.
So you've got your conditional content, you've got your branding for look and feel for your output. And I'm guessing that as you're going through and you're doing your sites and your PDF, it has to be adaptive. It's got to work correctly on a phone versus on a tablet versus on somebody's desktop machine. You want to have the right information showing up, table of contents, navigation tools, all of those pieces.
Absolutely. And that was something that where a PDF, unfortunately, really fell down was being able to work as well on a computer as it can on a phone. Sometimes the content is just too small and it's basically unusable when you're on a mobile device.
Right. Sort of a great solution for print that then got adapted into an okay solution for digital. And over time, Adobe made a couple of adjustments and they've got fluid view and so on, but it's not as capable as sites in being able to 100% get customized to what you need organizationally.
Exactly.
Workflows. There's the idea of going in and making sure that you know exactly who's authoring, who's reviewing, who's translating, who's publishing, the right permissions are given, where things are in all of that workflow. Where do you stand in sort of that vision of a successful integration of all of these pieces, making sure you know exactly where things stand?
I think building out the workflows was a key step in our implementation project. And also doing the identification work up front. So sometimes you do things without actually thinking about or documenting why you do them, and developing those processes from the ground up was a good opportunity for our team to really examine what they do on a daily basis and why they do it. And then to be able to bake that into the workflows that we used within guides. This also helped some of our legal and regulatory compliance wording and requirements be met. And it really, really helped us to reuse content across the various products that we have. The scalable structure of guides is really what allows us to do this. We really, really want to start to share with others within the team the learnings that we'd had, to our marketing group, to our professional services teams, and as well as others.
All right. One of the things that drives me personally crazy is the idea of people talking about search and find, because no one actually wants to ever search and find. They just want to have the information that they need right now. And it depends on who it is that's doing that kind of a thing. An author needs to search through and find, what did I work with yesterday, a week ago? What do we have that's already relevant? You're going to have your internal staff, your end users, faceted search. So that becomes a really cool capability with digital first. with being able to simply take the content, break it up into those smaller topic-based pieces, work within the guides and the asset kind of a combination, use the metadata to locate things. What was your vision? What was the ideal sort of a world in and around these things?
Well, like you mentioned, Bernard, depending on who the person is, they all have different reasons for searching for things. Like you mentioned, an author might be looking for content to make sure that things are consistent during the editing process, whereas an end user might be looking for a specific answer to something. And the search capabilities within AEM Guides really allows us to meet all of our customers' needs in terms of finding what they're looking for. It's just made it easier. It has increased the searchability, and it really has streamlined the whole process of trying to find the information that you're looking for.
And I'm guessing when somebody's able to find what they're looking for, either they have a better experience with your product and they speak favorably of it, or they feel favorably towards it, or if they're looking for information in order to make purchasing related decisions, it's a lot easier for them to come along and, do the digital equivalent of clicking the buy button, whether that's reaching out to a sales rep or whoever it is. But it's good business to have good search and good find.
It really is. And it's also more efficient. Gone are the days where a end user has to go searching through using the Control F or the find function within a PDF to be able to find certain parts of content that they're looking for if it's not clearly outlined in a table of contents.
Right. It's sort of the equivalent of, I don't need the yellow pages. I need a plumber to stop the leak in my basement.
Exactly.
Yeah. So translation, that was a nice to have early on, but there was definitely a vision. What was that?
Yeah. So for Topcon, we have to support about 35 to 40 languages right out of the box, depending on the product. Our content needs to be easily searchable, and for that content to be reused as a starting point for new translations. Support for cloud-based language management was absolutely critical.
And you want to be able to translate content just by going in and saying, give me German, give me English, give me Spanish, give me Japanese. Translation connector kicks in, the machine translation, the human translation, you just hit and go and Guides does the rest.
That's right. We were spending so much time on formatting. And since all the technical writers are now using the same data structure and the web or PDF output is controlled by using Cascade style sheets, we don't have to format the content before or after the translation anymore.
Which is really nice. And that kicks in with the content reuse as well to reduce the translation cost. Topcon is paying to translate content, but it should just be the new stuff. If it's already reused, it's already translated, it's already reviewed by the subject matter experts, it's already approved. You don't need anybody to go back and redo what's already been done at however much they charge you per word for that. And then it just becomes less review work for all of your subject matter experts. It just basically is getting rid of that amount of time overhead so that you can release things and improve a translation.
And we also want to publish translated content to the web before it's been officially approved. Then it can be reviewed by a Topcon sales team or installer and trainer. This allows us to get the content out to our customers as soon as possible.
Right.
But it also allows the content to be then reviewed almost in real time.
Right. It's sort of an on the fly.
The content might not be 100% correct, but when the content's been reviewed and approved, we can easily update it online.
So there's a lot of challenges and business reasons that were there for seeking the change. And you also had this strong vision for the future. So then it comes to the next major step for you and for the team at Topcon. What was that?
Yeah, the next big step for us was finding the right partner. We knew what we wanted to do, and we want to make sure that we delivered on that really well. The solution we needed meant finding someone who knows the documentation space and has seen similar challenges before, So we reached out to CCMS Kickstart and to the Adobe team. Adobe helped implement some very new and challenging technologies. We were one of the first companies ever to be published directly to sites from guides. Adobe included us as a beta partner for software and features and have been building functions as we asked for them and troubleshooting our deployment on the fly. From the CCMS Kickstart side, your team has helped us with our content strategy, conversion of our legacy content, training and support, and just broadly being there to help guide us along the way and do it right. It's one thing to have a nice new shiny site or tool, but it only works if you have the content ready to publish to it. Your connection to Adobe means that you help bring in their people along the way so that they can assist us. CCMS Kickstart also worked hand in hand as part of our team early on in guides by taking the time to support and build our internal team's skills with the product. As a result, your team has been an invaluable extension of our group, part of the corporate family and less of a third-party consultant. And we really thank you for that.
And thanks back to you. The team is just a lot of fun to work with. Fun is one of those things that is an intangible, but really matters. It's a great group of people that you have. And it's interesting to see where they're going. We sort of got that early jump. We had that 90-day Kickstart plan for the implementation and just work together. We had those shared goals.
The plan was designed to get us moving quickly while setting a strong foundation. It wasn't just about getting content into the new system. It was about creating the structures and the processes that will allow us to scale. That meant figuring out how to organize everything, setting the rules for how content flows from creation to publication, and making sure that we weren't just carrying over old problems into the shiny new tool.
Yeah, we definitely spent some time making sure that we got your team trained up, figuring out those early wins, and then working through the real world use case. And that really let us test out the ideas as we were building things. And it was actually pretty quick for the build. By the end of the first 90 days, we weren't just theorizing. We'd actually moved content through your system. Governance is starting to take hold. Samples have been reviewed, published. We even did some translation. And I think all of that helped give you a clear path forward for expanding what the teams had started together. So this includes a reuse strategy. We figured out how all of the parts that make up your content can be shared across products, documents, and teams so that you're not redoing the same thing over and over. We put a solid plan in place and use things like topics and maps, metadata, conrefs, conditional profiling. Now when something changes, the update flows everywhere that it needs to, and it does it automatically. That includes authors, reviewers, publishers, and even translators. Everybody knows that if it's correct once, it's going to be correct always. Metadata and taxonomy is where we define the categories and the labels that organize the content so that it's easier to find and publish, both for your own teams and for the people who are actually ending up using it. We made sure that everything connects with the rest of Topcon's ecosystem as well. So that means things like search filters and product tags are going to work smoothly across sites, assets, and beyond. Information architecture is how we end up organizing the content so that we have that digital-first, reusable, and scalable collection of pieces that makes sense. And it has to make sense whether you're an author building or if you're a customer reading it. So we worked and we set up standard topic types, content models, and templates that worked across all the different devices and the outputs that you need. Then we built it so that it grows as your organizational needs are going to continue to evolve. Governance is about making sure that we have the right people involved at the right time with a lot of clear workflows so that we can keep content accurate and up to date and really keep it compliant. We also work through a lot of real-world scenarios like product launches and regulatory updates, so the reviews and the approvals are all happening smoothly without slowing your team down. Content conversion is how we took all of the existing legacy content and started bringing it into the new structured world. And instead of trying to do it all at once, we focused on sort of the most important content first as you defined it, and then we built a process that your team could actually start to repeat over and over. And that really kept things moving and helped maintain quality. It was actually kind of interesting. there was a change in the plans. As we were working with the content, your team started to take over the conversion, and my group was able to move on to things like publishing instead. Training and support also made sure that your team had all of the knowledge and the confidence so that they could actually use the new tools and the processes. We put a lot of focused effort onto a hands-on set of sessions, and that was done for the data and the AEM guides environment. We did that both from a technical and an everyday authoring perspective, and really worked to make sure that there was ongoing support in place so that the people who took the training had all of the help they needed when they started working in the system for real. We also tailored all of the training and used your samples, your words, your images, and I think that really made an impact. This isn't just a random list of components either. All of the components work because they're interconnected. Reuse depends on structure, and the structure needs solid metadata. Governance keeps everything moving in the same direction. Training gets everybody speaking the same language, and none of this works if we're going to be bringing in messy legacy content into that new system.
Yeah, we saw that play out. Our early training aligned the team. When conversion started, Topcon stepped up and put the plan into action using the reuse strategy and following the architecture that CCMS had built. There were challenges, but the governance is what kept us on track. And because the foundation was solid, we could take advantage of new opportunities, like when CCMS Kickstart learned Adobe was enhancing their sites templates. They brought in extra support, and all three teams, Topcon's, Kickstart's, and Adobe's, worked together to make that happen. That's the real value of getting these pieces right. They aren't just check boxes, they're foundational building blocks that make it possible for teams to adapt, to scale, and to handle whatever is down the road.
So we talked about challenges, the business drivers, the visions and goals, the value of the partnerships, and what the plan was. Now let's move on to getting those goals achieved. What are the actual results that you're seeing?
Yeah, we're now publishing faster than we ever had before. And we're able to deliver content globally almost in real time. Our tech docs.topconpositioning.com is set to go live in the very, very near future, delivering digital first content to our users. It also will allow updated PDFs to be generated with much less manual effort, staying consistent across our various platforms.
But that leads us into the next idea, the centralized and reusable content. You've got content that's sitting inside assets. I know you reuse content pretty extensively, and we've been playing with things like boilerplate content, coming up with standardized phrases. But where do you see yourself now in regards to that centralized and reusable content?
A live content management system has been just a huge game changer for us. Our content now lives in one place. It's managed through AEM assets. Images come from our digital asset manager. So those images can be used on our sites or be reused within our technical publications, or they can go out into different training materials that our professional services group use. This allows us to reuse content across products and outputs, which it means less duplication and fewer mistakes. So that allows us, again, just the opportunity to be more efficient. Using some of the functionality within guides like keys or conditional content, we're able to make that boilerplate applicable to each of our guides without having to rewrite it.
You mentioned just in that last set of conversation, you talked about training, you talked about marketing, and you talked about professional services. So how are you seeing that improved collaboration across the teams?
Yeah, so it's still early days, but I think that one of the things that this is going to give us is a single source of truth. And rather than sharing back and forth, marked up versions of PDFs, everything is now in guides natively. Everybody's working off the latest copy. Any comments that are put in by our subject matter experts go directly back to the author in real time. We're really, really working on value add rather than things like formatting.
That leads into the idea of that scalable and sustainable workflow. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, we really spent a lot of time working on an agreed upon foundation that supports future growth, whether it's more products, more languages, or more users. Our workflows are standardized, making it easier to onboard new teams and to scale up quickly. This also opens the door for us to be able to take advantage of AI and automation.
I just feel like someone out there just stamped their bingo card because we said AI and automation.
You know, they're not just just buzzwords today, though. They are really things that are allowing our teams to really become more efficient and take advantage of the tool sets that are growing so quickly.
Right. And you're doing personalization, or the plan is personalization down the line, because you know who your customers are. You know what they've bought from you. You know how they're using it. Why give them words that don't matter to them?
Exactly. So one of the other things that we're looking at, Bernard, is building on our workflows as we look at Adobe Workfront integration down the road. Translation started as a nice to have, but we've really made a lot of progress. I knew that the sooner we started on translating content using AEM guides, the better off our customers would be. And if we don't have to spend thousands of hours per year formatting unstructured content, we can use those savings elsewhere. Being a multinational company selling products worldwide, we have a lot of translation projects. Machine translation is helping us to accelerate delivery of localized content. And that puts us in line with our corporate website, which already supports multiple languages. Depending on which country or region of the world you are in, when you log in to our website, will mean that you see the translated content in your native language.
Which just eliminates miscommunication, makes it easier for people to, again, find the information that they need so that they can work with the product or make the judgment call on what they're going to buy.
Exactly.
Authors, I know, just working with them for the publish, it's really fun to watch them. It's awesome. They ask for something, functionality, look and feel wise. We make a change in a style sheet. They click the button and they go, yep, that's the thing that we want. And they know that it's across the board done. The review cycles takes a little while for people to get used to working, as you said, not with that digitally dog-eared PDF copy that has post-it notes put throughout it and highlighters and markers and arrows pointing to it and passed around between 30 or 40 people. Translation, it gets to be a little easier to work its way through. Publishing, being streamlined so that, again, you're taking your one map and you're going to your PDF into your sites. And with the conditional content that you talked about earlier, being able to go in and do it for multiple type of product, platform, audience combinations. Anything that I missed there on the efficiency gains?
No, I think that really sums it up. We're just super happy with what the tool is allowing us to do. We set out to make publishing faster, reuse of content smarter, and collaboration easier. And we're already seeing the results. Content is ready for global distribution through both sites and PDF, with a single source of truth and scalable process to support future growth. What started out as a nice to have for early supportive translation turned into a real progress with machine translation and localized sites. And I think it's safe to say that none of this would have come together without the support from Adobe, the guidance from CCMS Kickstart, and the hard work of the Topcon team. Together, we've built something that works today and is set up for a sustainable, scalable growth into the future.
So with that set of materials behind us, what's next? What do the next few months, the next year or two hold? And I guess beyond that.
Now that we've got the foundation, it's all about building on it. Over the next few years, we're looking at expanding reuse even further, putting full translation workflows in place, and adding automation with AI. Things like recommended images, suggest reuse, and smarter authoring support. We're also exploring Workfront integration to keep projects moving smoothly and making sure that content isn't just available, but delivering a better user experience, whether that's through personalized sites, integrated training materials, or even more videos. It's all about scaling smart, keeping things sustainable, and making sure that we're ready for whatever's next. We really need to enhance our users' experience, and that may include using videos or even long-term goals of incorporating tech docs into training and shared content.
So if you distill all of this down to just a couple of points or a couple of the things that you hope they remember.
So at the heart of our implementation project was the shift from static one and done documents to dynamic content experiences that can adapt, scale, and serve users wherever they are. But getting there takes more than just tools. It's the combination of strategy and technology that makes it work. We didn't try to overhaul everything all at once. We started small, focused on quick wins, and scaled up from a strong foundation. And most importantly, we kept the business goals front and center, making sure that content we created wasn't just easier to manage, but actually delivered value to the customers who use it.
And I'm going to add in that none of this happens without the right people in the mix. Your team was really open to the change. They were vested in the success of the project. They really wanted this to succeed.
100% agree with that. We spent time working with, our partner, genuinely invested in our success. Partners like Adobe and yourself, CCMS Kickstart, that really made all the difference. And we're lucky to have had both of you help us across this entire journey. If you have more questions, we're happy to connect on LinkedIn or by email if you'd like, or you can just scan the QR code and connect online. You can also visit the ccmskickstart.com for information on what Bernard's team offers.
And for anyone who's attending and listening to a session or a recorded session, if any of this feels familiar, you're navigating those complex content challenges, you have global teams, you're just trying to make your documentation work, feel free, reach out. I'm always happy to share what's worked for others.
An implementation like this wouldn't be possible without the contributions of so many people. I'd like to say a big thanks to our CIO, Chris Cowles, for sponsoring this initiative, and Akil Strum, our VP Marketing. To my technical publications team, a huge thank you to you all for your patience and trust and diving into this project 110%. And to our marketing department, a huge thank you so much for all of your help tying us into the Topcon AEM instance. Also, a big thank you to the Guides development team for all your help and support and the great technology that Adobe brings to all of us, and for giving us the stage to share our story. It's been an incredible team effort all around. Lastly, Bernard, a huge thanks to you and the entire CCMS Kickstart team for guiding us through this journey. It's been a true partnership from day one, and we couldn't have gotten here without your expertise and support.
Clearly, this kind of a success story doesn't happen in a vacuum. So without Stephen, his team, and their trust, we wouldn't be here. A huge thank you to all of you. I've also worked with the Adobe team for years. So Stefan Seibel, we've been doing this since the very first Data World event so many years ago, and a thank you to both of you. Also to the sales team, the development teams, but most importantly, thank you to the attendees and the viewers of these sessions. Like any type of technical content, if there isn't an audience to consume it, it really probably wasn't worth creating it. So I'm looking forward to hopefully hearing from you, and maybe in a year or two telling your corporate story at an event like this. A big thank you to all of you. Take care. Bye-bye.